Oh, I didn't even realize my microphone was off. But yeah, we got 2 pound test line, number 8 hook, red worms on the line. We're fishing in Texas right now. We're gonna see how far we can go. Now, I know this is the high time right now, as you can see on the graph right over here. Hold up. Right there, that's the high time. So we're gonna see. Oh, actually, hold on. We always need to get this license right here. 200 for one 24-hour period, and that means I don't have to put any back. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go all the way over here. I found this spot on an older account. I've played this before, and we're gonna see if we can get anything out of here. We probably won't get anything major, but we'll see. We're gonna go ahead and set our leader to about 70 inches, because this channel right here, where you can see that blue highlight, that right there is probably the deepest part of the lake, and it keeps getting deeper as you go farther right. So we're just gonna cast out there. Make sure our bobber doesn't lay on his side. No, it is. We gotta pick it up real quick. Means I gotta throw it out a little bit more this way, because it's like a ramp. So, well, that was a terrible cast. There we go, that's better. This pole, of course, is not gonna throw far at all. But, gonna loosen up. We're just watching that bobber, see? Oh yeah, we got a good fish on. Nice little fish. It's probably a little one, maybe a bluegill. Yeah. Oh, first fish I ever caught is a trophy bluegill. Trophies are always worth more, like XP and money and everything. So catching trophy anything is really good. You want to go for those as much as possible. But in this lake particular, there's bluegill, crappie, bass. There's some grass carp. There's a bunch of different stuff in here, and they range anywhere from half a pound to 6 pounds in here. But the 6 pound fish are usually only the carp. The bass don't really get that big here. The bass are only about a pound and a half, maybe. I think the biggest one I've ever caught was probably 2 pounds, and that was way up. There we go. We got another bluegill on. Let's go and turn these hints off. Redder sunfish. That's pretty nice. Seeing we just leveled up. It's a level 3, and every time you level up, you get $1,500, and you get gold, gold coins. They're called bait coins, and you unlock more and more stuff. And this spot right here has always produced for me, because you can't really throw far when you begin the game, so you need somewhere where you can, you could get good fish. And as you're always seeing all this stuff pop up, I'll go back through everything that I've gone through. You see this? I mean, just producing very well right now. And they're little fish, of course, because I'm not the biggest guy. See, I'm getting new personal records almost every time. But and these little fish, after a while, they're not going to mean much. But for right now, we're not needing very much money. We're just needing that XP, and that XP is going to result in cash. And we're just going to keep building up cash. We're going to try our hardest not to spend too much money. I really want to catch a big old grass carp, but it might be kind of hard. Maybe catch a little channel cat. Oh yeah, there's little channel catfish in here too. And they're young channel cats. They're not fully grown yet, so they're only maybe a pound to 2 pounds. I've never seen one that's littler than that. I've never really caught one like that. Oh yeah, that's a good fish right there, guys. You can tell when they run off with it that they're either a good fish or it's something that you haven't caught yet. See, and that's a little fish, but that's a grass carp. There you go. Smallmouth buffalo. They're good XP, and they get a lot bigger. This was a very small hook, as you can see, it's very small in his mouth. But we're going to go ahead and keep him. We're going to keep throwing. And that bobber on the right hand top of the screen, that's how you know there's a fish on the line. You see, and it says strike. It won't always say strike like that. It's gonna go away after a while. This is just for new players that need to know. Yeah, this is probably another smallmouth. Maybe even a channel cat, I'm not sure. But he's fighting pretty hard. In that clicking sound, that's just your the fish trying to run away, and your drag is just going out. Your rod's supposed to reel in, not out, and when it goes out, it clicks like that. So that's just how you know the fish is fighting. It's a good fish. Nope, this is a spotted bass. I think this will be my first spotted bass. No, yeah. These are the biggest money fish you can catch here right now as a low level. And usually you want to farm these guys, and they feed on like other fish, like little fish, small minnows. I'm using red worms right now, so of course I could easily catch those, grasshoppers, anything like that. And I kept it. And as you can see at the top left corner, it says that my fish hut is full. And what that means is that, see if I go into my inventory, my fish keeper, these are all the fish I caught today. And then at the top you can see my reward, the fish I've caught, how much they weigh and everything like that. And once I fill this up, I have to end my day. And to end your day, there's two ways you can do it. Either you can leave the pond you're at, which in Texas it doesn't matter because Texas is free, it's your home state. But if you go anywhere else, like I'll show you on the map, see, you can see all your rewards. And premium is like you get a 50% boost to your experience points and how much your fish cost, or how much they'll be sold for. Okay, now that we're in the main menu, you can see that Lone Star Lake, it costs nothing. If you can see at the bottom left hand, no matter how many days I try to go for, it doesn't cost anything. The license you get in the beginning is a basic license, and I always buy my advanced license for wherever I go, because if I catch anything, like I'll go to the Texas right now so I can show you. For the basic fishing license, you have to release the spotted bass, the common ones, the red ear sunfish that are commoner trophies, and the bluegills that are commoner trophies. And that's bad. You want to be able to keep every fish you get. So you buy the advanced Texas license so you don't have to release any fish. And it costs a little bit more, but in the end you'll be making a lot more money for it. So now that I ended my day, you see that I have all that money. And what I'm going to do is go to the shop, and I'll show you everything that I unlocked. And all this right here, you have to buy your rods and your reels to combo them together, and these little green squares on the sides, those are what indicate what you can use for it. So you see it has a bobber on the telefloat right here, so when you go to reels, You click the reels, and you're gonna look for something that has the bobber in it and the reels. In this mini spin 800, of course it has it because those are the combo that you get when you first start the game. That's your level 1. And you keep going, and you can see that most of them are the same, but then you have these, and these are bait casting reels, and these only go on spinning rods. So when you go, you see how you can select all these go on spinning casting rods right here. Oh, I'm sorry, not spinning rods, but casting rods down here at the bottom. And you don't really unlock a lot of casting rods. They're really good for like higher up stages. Like, I'll show you, they're really good in Emerald, like the Everglades, St. Croix, just higher levels like that. But down here, they really don't matter because right here, you're going to be fishing with the bobber and using all kinds of different baits that you unlock. But those are the reels that I unlocked that I just got when I hit level 3 and level, I'm about to level up to level 4, and I'll get more. And as you go, you get different reels. And right now, the highest reel I can get is this one. I could get the Lodex, but I don't have a casting rod right now, so I don't need that. And you can see the ratio is 5.5 to 1, which is 5 yards every minute or something like that, and the recovery rate. And then the capacity is how much line you can hold. And this is like very important, because if you get a rod or if you get a reel that can't hold the line that you're getting, you're gonna have no line and you'll get spooled from,
Recovery, what you said? Was every minute?
I don't know what it is, like 5 something
What?
yards.
Which one is you talking
The ratio, 5.5 to 1.
about? Oh, recovery ratio. What is that? It's not per minute though. It's not nothing that's got to do with time. It's more. I think you're. I don't want to lie to you, but it's not 5.5. Is it the bearings, man? Ball bearings is right there. Ratio. I think it's how it spins. The ratio of the spin.
Oh,
Recovery is the spin for sure. Recovery is the speed of each revolution. You got recovery 23.5 inches per spin, something like that. Ratio. I don't know what the ratio is.
me either. But as I was saying, the capacity is very important, because if you get a certain line, like when you go into your lines here, there's monofilament, there's fluoroline, fluorocarbon, and there's braid. And braid is like, fluorocarbon and braid are the strongest, really. That is thinner in diameter, or when you're fishing, like especially for trout can see very well, so you want a thin line, and fluorocarbon is a very thin line but very strong, so you want to use this. But at the same time, you might want to use monofilament, because when it's a lower test weight, like you see how it says 2 pound test, that means if you're trying to catch anything like bluegills or anything, you would use this line, because bluegills and stuff like that don't go over a pound really, unless you just catch a monster bluegill, which I don't think anybody's ever done. But you use that, and the higher up you go, it gets more line, which you could put more of that into your reel depending on the reel you have. And you see how this would start out really small at 150 yards, 3 pound test. You'd use this probably for like spotted bass or something in Texas. And then fluorocarbon, you jump right up and you start having to use gold. And gold is very important in this game, because you can buy a lot of things with it, but you don't want to spend it right off the bat. But you see this fluorocarbon is 6 pounds. You probably wouldn't buy this at level 3, because there's no fish that you would catch at level 3 that are 6 pounds. The only way you would need this fluorocarbon line right now, not even right now, when you're level 6 maybe, is for Mudwater River, and that's because the channel cat there get really big. But even there, you wouldn't catch them.
Fluorocarbon is just for trout and clear water. Mud water is too muddy. You can use braid line. They can't see it.
Hmm.
That's what the floor line is for. The sun shines through it instead of when the sun shines on regular line, you can see it. When it shines on fluorocarbon, it shines straight through, and it's less buoyant, so when it hits the water, it sinks.
Is that why it's clear, like, or it's like that silver-looking color when it's
It's got
wrapped
the
up like
sun
that?
shining through it, and
That's
that braid
cool.
is for that mud water shit. So really, anywhere you fish where the water's dark, you can fish with braid and monofilament. But when you go for trout, you gotta fish with something that they can't see. And
Okay.
it's stretchier too, cause those how those motherfuckers fight.
Yeah. Okay, well, y'all can see that the braid, if you look at it, the diameter, as the test gets higher, the diameter gets higher because it's a thicker line. And with fluorocarbon, as he just said, it's very clear, and so you use that for trout fishing. And in clear water, especially like in super big lakes like St. Croix's, really clear, and so in St. Croix you'd probably use fluorocarbon. But at the same time, you could probably use something different, because I don't know if blue cats really pay attention to the line as much as they do the bait that you use. Um, but we'll continue on with what I was saying. Okay, so we'll move on from lines. We've done rods, reels, lines. Now we'll go to all the toys and equipment. Now, first thing you need to look at is keep nets and stringers. Keep nets and stringers are the most important thing in the game, besides your rods, reels, and baits. Um, this is what you hold your fish in. And right now, since I'm a level 1, I had the Fish Hut Extra Small, which is the smallest one you'll ever receive, and it's what you get at the beginning of the game. You can only hold 4.4 pounds of fish, and every fish can't exceed over a pound, or you can't keep it. So, what I'd have to do right now is probably go to one of these two right here, but since I don't have the gold for this one, I'm either going to wait to level 4 to get the 15-pound one, or I'll get this one at level 2. And since I'm so close to level 4 already, I will wait for this one. And that's what you want to do. You want to wait until there's a big jump. So since this one's 4 to 8, it's only a 4-pound difference, and there's only a 2-pound difference between the max fish weight. And there's 3 levels between 1 and 4, and that's a very fast transition, no matter if you're catching small fish or large fish. And 4 to 15 is a big difference. Plus, at 6.5 pounds, you're not going to be catching anything that big, but the more fish you can hold is the more money you're going to make in the end. And that's what it's all about in this game, is money and getting new stuff and being able to travel new places. And when you're fishing, you don't always want to stay in Lone Star Lake. Like, I know that you can grind this place out and catch a million bass, and so it's actually good money for a low level. I'm not gonna lie, some people go there just to grind out bass, and they catch a bunch of bass. But you want to travel around, and it's really, that's what all these places are made for, is to travel around. And like here, you're gonna make a little bit more money than you did at Lone Star. Then to Emerald, you're gonna, Mudwater and Emerald are a very big difference, because Emerald has walleye, and walleye is like, what are they? They're once you get to this place, you don't want to go at level 5. I promise you don't want to go at level 5. You'll not have anything that you need. But Mudwater to Emerald is a very big cash difference because of the walleye. The walleye costs way more there. And the higher up you go, the more it costs to go. Like, as you can see, Lone Star is nothing, and then to go to Mudwater, it's 1,800 for one day, plus the advanced license is $400. And you always want to get that because channel cats, when you're catching channel cats, that's pretty much the only thing people catch there. Channel cats, or what are they called? Smallmouth or largemouth bass, I think, are there too. Those come in trophies a lot, and especially black bullheads. They come in trophies a lot when you're using like 1/0 hooks, and they're real big too. But here at Emerald, you always want to go when it's raining because that's walleyes, and the pike are really big there. Like the northern pike, they can get really big. The grass pickerel, they're pretty nice. And the yellow perch, they come in. There's a lot of trophies that are yellow perch there, and they don't get real big, but trophies are always good XP, and it looks good on your profile too. But we'll go back to the shop, and we will go to stringers. Stringers. The difference between keep nets and stringers is that in a stringer, you can put fish on, but you can't take fish off. In a keep net, you can take a fish out. So say you have, let me just go back to a keep net real quick. say you're a higher level and you have this 55-pound fish cabin right here, and you want to keep, let's say, a 7-pound fish that you just caught, and you're like, man, my fish net is full because you're at 55 point, well, like 5. You busted your keeping that, and it's not gonna break or anything, but you're over the weight that you need. Well, you can take a fish out to lower that weight and put your 7-pound fish back in. But if you have this stringer right here, you can't take the fish off, and that's why it says fish friendly. No, because you can't take it off. So that's a big difference. And stringers seem to get bigger. Like at level 6, let me see here. I think there's no level 6 keep net, and at level 8 is 26 pounds. And on the stringer, the level 6 is already 22 pounds. So that's a nice difference right there between 26 and 22.
Go back to your other things.
What other things?
Not these, but the other ones. You know what those are?
Hooks.
Yeah, like a safety pin.
So you like wrap it around.
No, you stick it through the gill. But actually, they go through the lip right here, so you damage the fish, and that's why they call it friendly, not friendly.
Oh wow.
Because you pop it through their lips, and you can't throw. They don't want you to throw it back in the water after you hurt it like that.
Yeah, that'd be messed up. But that's the big difference between keep nets and stringers. And stringers to me are bigger at lower levels, and then keep nets get the biggest at a highest level. Competitions. Wait, don't you use keep nets in competitions most of the time?
You gotta watch. That's what they tell them. You gotta watch in competitions, because some competitions you need
Look,
keep nets, and some competitions you need it.
Look, I'll see right here. See if it says anything about it. Oh yeah, you can use only mono or floral line and fish keep nets. And this is for events. Events are really important because if I go all the way to the bottom right here, so you can see the prize you get. So you get in the first place, that's $46,000 that you get, plus 10 bait coins and that barbless spinner. And these are like money makers right here. First through, I think, is it first through 10th. And I'm not sure, 4th through 10th are probably not big prizes at all. They're probably mainly like bait coins.
One bait coin.
Yeah, one bait coin. So you want to go for these higher places, and they're hard most of the time, but they're usually around your level that you can fish at. So the minimum level is 22 here, so you want to be in between 22 and 32, and that's usually like say you're like a level 24 and you're going up against level 31s, 32s. Y'all are usually sort of close, so it seems like the competition is average for you. You know what I mean? You're used to using all the stuff that you're using, so they want to level it out. And as you go through competitions, these are all different levels and different things that you can use. See right here, you can only use float fishing tackle, which is using a bobber to fish, which a bobber is using bait. Really, nothing else really has bait besides you can use craws as a lure, and that's kind of a bait because you can use crawfish as a bait on a float rod. You can't use crawfish as a bait?
Live crawfish, but not
Yeah.
bait.
No, no.
So they got bait crawfish on that too. The plastic.
Yeah. Okay, next thing is tackle boxes. Tackle boxes are pretty self-explanatory. It's what you hold everything in, and when you first start, you have a set limit on what you can hold, and getting tackle boxes helps you hold more. So right here, tackles, you can hold 5 extra tackles plus another line, and as you go up, they get super big where you can hold 100 more tackles than you used to be able to, and 7 more lines. And the lines aren't used just for just to hold, just in case you break them, because you can break them. It's because you can get more rods. And see right here, this is 2 rods, and I would get this at level you can get this at level 3, but it's not super important. Like, it's kind of important. but not until you're a higher level. Like, even, I would say you wouldn't need it probably until level 5 or 6, because there's nothing that you're going to need that for at this time. But at the same time, there's, because in Texas you can catch spotted bass off of casting spoons and lures like that. But these help you hold more rods. So this one holds rods, this one holds rods and reels, and so on and so forth. Like, this one is just rods, 7 rods and 2 reels. You see what I mean? Like, you have to have the tackle boxes to hold the 7 reels, but you have 2 reels you don't have to hold. And the ones that hold reels are usually for gold, unless they are all the way down here usually, and they cost $20,000. So it's a lot. And when you're up that high at level 36, you do lose money faster than you earn it most of the time, but sometimes you find places that you can earn money really fast. And then waistcoats help you, they're just like tackle boxes. They help you hold more tackle and more lines. It's pretty self-explanatory. Hooks and bobbers, I'll go over hooks, but bobbers are pretty self-explanatory. Hooks go from numbers, which is 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, 1, and 1 is the biggest in the numbers. 10 is the smallest. And then you go into aughts, and then it goes 1 aught, 2 aught, 3 aught, 4 aught, 5 aught, and so forth. When does the aught stop? At 10?
Yeah.
10 is the biggest. They go forward, and 1's the smallest. And the /0 is the aught. That's what that is. And aughts are saltwater hooks, right? Like, you use them in the ocean because they're bigger? Oh, you can use them in here? I figured that's what it was. Like, I thought numbers were freshwater and aughts were saltwater. Oh, the colors.
Carp, when you fish for carp, those first 2 mag fin up there, go left on go to the first page. Okay, those at the top, those mag fin at the top, you see how they're silver?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now go down. Those are a different color?
Yeah.
No, hold on. Go to a different color number. The ones with the numbers. Go sideways again. See if you can find bigger numbers, but not odds. Anyways, that's the difference in hooks is your colors. Carp can see colors. So when you're fishing for carp, if you're fishing with them silver ones, you're not going to catch too many because they can see the shine. But so you'll get like down low, that mag fin down there, those are different color ones. See, even you see on the side it says silver blue.
Mm-hmm.
And then go back to.
Oh, these are silver blue and these ones are black nickel.
Yeah, you want to switch to the black nickel.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know that. That's probably why I've never caught any carp before. Not gonna lie. It's probably using something different.
So I'd like to sit here with you. Your next video is gonna be kick ass for real.
Mm-hmm. And bobbers are easy. Bobbers, the bigger the bobber, the heavier it is, but the more it can hold. So like when you're in your baits right here, your baits get heavy. Like right now, your baits aren't that heavy. You can see that it says weight light, weight light, weight light, and it gets once you hit level 5, it gets to medium heavy, which is like too much for the slim bobber, but not at all a challenge for the chubby bobber. And the chubby bobber helps you throw farther because it's heavier, and once you swing it, you know, I mean, just like if you've ever casted before, you swing something heavy, you're gonna throw it heavy, you're gonna throw it way far. And the bait, it can get real heavy, like shiners. I've actually never used shiners because I really don't like them because they cost gold and they don't move as much as the small minnows do. But shiners are really heavy, and so you have to have a really durable bobber. And I think the chubby is good for that. I'm not sure if it is. Yeah, high. Max floating weight high. You can see that on the left side or the right side of the screen. On the 3rd row, it says max floating weight high, and that's how you know that you can use something that weighs heavy, shiners. And sport bobbers are they're like very, very, very
Sport bobbers?
yeah, they don't hold much, but they're very sensitive, and they're for like he just said, for trout, they're very, very sensitive. So you see exactly when they're buying.
Maggots and
Like very lightweight baits. And then your lures, there's a lot of lures. Lures are what you would use if you don't want to use bait, so you want to cast something else. Like if you go to your map right here, you can look at all your fish species. Oh, well, let's not look at Canete Creek, but let's go to Lone Star Lake since we're here right now. You can see that right here it says preferred baits and then preferred lures. And they like nano spoons, nano spinners, tubes, and grubs. Tubes and grubs need a jig head with them because they, on their own, they don't have a hook. So you have to have a jig head with them. But like nano spoons and spinners, those already have a hook with them because they're a lure themselves. And you see how it says common jig heads. Jig heads are what you would attach grubs and worms and craws and all that stuff too. Like I'll show you right here. Jig baits right here. So you click that and you can see how you have shads right here, and you have grubs, and you have tubes, you have worms, craws, nymphs, and all this good stuff right here that you can use. And for every one of these you have a hook that it fits. So right here, let's go to the first page. This first page, the 1-inch shad, its color is white, the length is 1 inch, and the fitting hook is 2 to 2/0. So what that means is it's gonna fit a 2, a number 2, a number 1, a 1/0, and a 2/0. That's that range in between those hooks is what it fits. If it's a 2, they're a 2/0. You know what I mean? And as you go up, if it's bigger hooks, like right here, you can see 2 to 2/0, but that's the same inch. Like 1 to 3/0, and then we can go to the craws because the craws are really big. No, I'm tripping. What's something that's bigger? 3-inch. You see these, the 2.5-inch craws fit 2 to 4/0, 3-inch 2 to 4/0. They get bigger as you go up. But let's go back into like that's jig baits. We'll go into craws and creatures are those. They're plastic versions of a creature. So like if you didn't want to use a live bait, you could use this and cast it out with your bait caster or your spinning rod. Bass jigs are like they're just like spinners, but they're for bass. And then there's many bass ones that you probably use in Texas, and then there's just regular bass ones that you'd use anywhere else that you're trying to catch bass. Like, I don't know where some bass at. Like Mudwater. Mudwater, you use a bass jig, and you'd use it depending on how big the bass get. And they have a hook size with them, and they have their weight. And your rod and your reel will tell you how much weight it can handle. Like, your rod will tell you the weight. Like spotted bass?
No, those are too big. The spotted bass get big. Those mini ones are for white bass and well, I just left Colorado.
Oh, I didn't know they were even good in Colorado.
White bass are small, like rainbow trout.
Well, as he just said, they're for like white bass because they're smaller.
Yeah.
They're for smaller bass. And then the bigger you go, the bigger your bass jig you'll use. So on here, a 1/8 ounce 1/0 hook, and then they get bigger. You know, you see the 1/8 ounce 3/0, and then.
Smallmouth bass, you want to use a regular bass jig.
Oh, okay.
It's for smallmouth and largemouth regular bass jig, mini for the smaller bass. I think that's what they call white bass.
Yeah, they're called white bass. And you see how the weight changed from 1/8 to 1/6. Well, you'll have to check between your rod. And let me show you right here. Like, we can go to the spinning rods. You see how right here it says the length 6'3", which is a very good pull. It's probably ultralight or light, yeah. And the lure weight is from 1/6 to 5/8. So in between that is what you can throw, and you can throw over it, but it risks damage. And you can throw under it too, but throwing under it would make your cast very short. Like, say if you wanted to go to Emerald and try to catch walleye with, well, what a walleye, like those narrow spoons. If you got a narrow spoon that was under 1/6 ounce, you wouldn't be able to throw far enough to get out there, unless your rod and reel combo allowed you to, which that can happen too.
You know what that action is?
Isn't it like moving your rod tip? So L2 is moving, like setting the hook on a fish usually, but when you're casting, it's for like lift and drop, or if you're doing straight and slow and you want to move the bait off the ground and do little bounces. The faster the action, the faster the bait is going to come off the ground, you know, because that's how fast the rod tip moves. I think for how like No, the longer it gets, I guess it doesn't change it. But on different ones, it changes. Let me see. See how this one is moderate fast, and oh, line weight. Line weight is important too on rods because line gets really heavy, and you can usually buy heavier line than your rod is at some certain levels. But you want to make sure that you don't. You want to make sure it stays in between that 3 to 7.5. But on here you see it's 3 to 6.5 pound test, which usually would mean that I'd probably either use 4 or 5 pound. Even though I'm not going to catch big fish like that, I don't want to go under and I don't want to go over because it might risk damage. But anyway, so let's go back to the lures. We went through bass jigs. Hard bait lures are crankbaits. Crankbaits are, I've never actually used one before. I can't even tell you how to use a crankbait. That's for topwater fishing. For, I don't know. Crankbait.
That's what that lip is on the front. When you pull it at a 1 or 2 speed, and it goes as deep as it says it's going to go, and it stays that deep, and it just goes.
Whoa.
And you keep pulling it slow, and you let it go back over the country, and then bring it back down.
Yeah, I'll probably have to level up and then actually use one of these to tell you how to use it. But I've never used one before, and I've heard they're really good lures to use in this game. And as you can see, they cost a lot, so you can tell that you're probably going to catch good fish off of them. And you don't unlock them to level 14, so you won't have to worry about it for a while to learn how to use them.
Bullet spinner, that's what I want.
A bullet spinner. And then slop spoons and casting spoons are closely related, except slop spoons you'd probably use in Emerald Lake for yellow perch, and casting spoons probably wouldn't work as well, but they might.
I want to say they're weedless. That's why the hook is hidden behind there like that.
Oh.
Just between the, but no, I ain't gonna say that.
I thought slop spoons did have a weed guard on them, and like the hook was behind the spoon, so when you're reeling it in, they couldn't see it. And then I think that's what it was.
Well, I think they do. Because the game does say they have weedless lures on this game.
See, in the casting spoons, they get bigger in ounces, their weight, and then their hook number gets bigger too. So, say you want to fish for what's good. Say, oh, here we'll go to narrow spoons. This is probably the easiest thing to explain. Say you want to fish for walleye and you want to use nano spoons or narrow spoons. Narrow spoons are smaller than casting spoons and slop spoons, but some fish just like this better. And say you want to catch walleye, well, the spoon itself is probably small in weight, but you can have a big hook on it. And the bigger the hook, the bigger the fish, as you know, because little fish aren't gonna bite a 3-aught hook. Like a perch is probably not gonna bite a 3-aught hook because it's not big enough to bite that. It'll nibble on the bait probably, but it won't bite that big hook. And the higher level you get, the bigger the hook is, and the better the bait is, or the better the lure. And spinners are good and bad at the same time. They're good for some people and bad for some people because some people don't know how to use them. And myself, I've never used a spinner because I haven't had a reason to yet.
They mimic a dead fish.
But they mimic a dead fish. Quote my dad, by the way. So you'd probably use them for like. Oh yeah, I forgot. I'm gonna explain the actions when I get a casting rod, and I'll probably like bass and trout. Cause trout bass and trout because they eat small fish like small minnows and stuff like that. So mimicking a dead fish would be the most accurate thing for them to bite on, and it has a really good action in the water depending on what you're doing with your rod. But they're very nice. And narrow spoons are. I'll explain narrow spoons when I have them, or not even narrow spoons. I'll explain spoons in general when I have them, when I have the rod for them, which I'll buy soon. But yeah, those are lures, and lures go on and on and on. You unlock a lot every level. Spinner baits, same as dead fish like that. And barbless, all it means is if you've ever seen a hook before, I don't know if you can see it on this. Hold on.
Yeah, you can.
On the hook right here, it's a barb, and it's like a little triangle on the end of a hook. So when you hook a fish and they try to shake it off, it gets stuck, and they can't really shake it off that well. But when it's barbless, it doesn't have that little triangle on the end of the hook, and so shaking off it's going to be a lot easier. But at the same time, keeping that tension on your rod and reeling that fish in real fast is going to keep your fish from jumping off the hook. And I don't use barbless all the time because I lose a lot of fish from it, but I've used it a couple times, a barbless spoon or a barbless narrow spoon before. And those are your lures and your baits. Pretty self-explanatory. Baits are what you bobber fish with. Like, you're never going to use a casting spoon or a casting rod or a spinner rod to throw some bait out, because it just won't do that. But they range from bread to, I don't know, the last thing you get is spawn sacks. And a lot of fish like a lot of different things. Like, if you look at what it says on your thing, like right here at level 3, this is going to target bluegill, trout and catfish, and black bullhead, or is there brown bullhead too? Yeah, is there brown bullhead in this game? I don't think there is there? I don't think I've ever seen one, but that you can see what it targets, and it does target more fish than this, and you can see that in the fish species bio. But this is what you're probably fishing for if you're getting this bait. For reals? And like, small cut bait is for predator fish because it's like meat, you know what I mean? And I mean, like, it's like small cut up fish pretty much. It's not a whole fish itself, but it's small cut up pieces of fish. And the shiners that are live shiners, so you'll probably hook them through like their back. You'll probably hook a shiner to its back, wouldn't you? And then let it swim, and it's a fish. So I mean, once they see it, they're gonna be like, oh, fish, and they're gonna go for it, you know what I mean? Same with small minnows. Flies are gonna probably be dead because they can't swim underwater, but some fish like them, as you can see in the target. Trout do, and that's in like Colorado. And then you have some baits that are specifically made for a certain fish, which, like, this one's made for trout, and mostly only trout eat this bait, but other fish might take it every once in a while. You don't know. But yeah, those are all the baits. And then in the next episode, I'll go over the new rods and what I'm getting, and I'll be fishing some more. So stay tuned. See y'all guys later.